Well, top of the Saturday to you, Canada. Good luck to our Toronto Blue Jays as well in the American League Division Series this weekend. We are here with the weekend wrap on Bakes on Things, and we're going to talk about a touchy subject that seems to be becoming touchier with government and businesses alike. What's going on here? Remember when remote work was supposed to be our liberation as a society? When we proved to bosses, to governments, to the so-called experts that we could work from home and deliver, and not just deliver, but we could actually thrive in this environment. Remember when commutes disappeared and families got back hours and hours of their lives, especially in our biggest and major centers? And productivity didn't crash the way that every CEO had predicted, did it? No, that didn't happen. We got things done in 3 hours that we used to take 8 for because of breaks and smoke breaks and water cooler breaks. For one shining moment, work from home was the future. And now they're dragging us all back, kicking and screaming into the cubicle era. People who were hired remotely from far away are now being demanded to move into the areas where the offices are. They want to put the genie back in the bottle, but why? That's the real question. Canadians everywhere need to start asking, why is this happening? What's the ulterior motive? Because in Canada, you know there's always an ulterior motive. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things. It's the weekend wrap. I hope you're having a great Saturday morning and you've got your coffee or your tea with you and you're ready for this subject because this one's a bit of a touchy one. But it's especially touchy if you're one of the leaders that are going to your teams now and demanding they return to the office. What is actually going on here? Something smells very Canadian fishy here. When you see companies like RBC, you see TD, you see governments now, Dougie Ford demanding all of his workers return to work. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, share in the comments below if this is happening around you, because make no mistake, this isn't about culture or teamwork or serendipity around the water cooler. That's the sales pitch, of course. That's the spin. But the real reasons are power, control, money, and surveillance. And surveillance might be the biggest one. We'll get into that in a second. But if we don't push back, work from home will go down in history as one of the greatest bait and switch betrayals of the modern workplace. Are we even surprised that this is happening right now? Probably not. I mean, if you ask me, am I surprised that everybody demanded you go back to work? I'm not, because we lived in a society before the big work from home craze where people loved to watch over you. They loved to be in control. People with VP titles and senior VP and executive VP didn't like not being able to see you or be able to come down on you for taking too long of a break. 5 extra minutes? F you, man. Get back to your desk. Well, let's lay it out. So RBC, they're telling staff to be in the office 4 days a week, or else. It's the or else that should be the problem here. Ontario's government, they're forcing every single public servant back 5 days a week by January of 2026, phasing it in with 4 days this fall. Ottawa's federal government, well, they've already mandated at least 3 days in the office, 4 for managers, and guess what? Reports are starting to say that roughly a quarter of federal workers in some big departments are quietly refusing to comply anyway. They've seen the scam. They know that this is about oversight, and they know that they're not going to play along any further. And would you blame them? Would you blame anyone that's doing it this way? Because yet the drumbeat is relentless. Banks, governments, tech companies, even Dell and BMO, all of them are doubling down on the or else message here. They're calling it a return to normal. I call it a power grab dressed up as nostalgia. They're saying they're returning things to normal, but isn't it interesting that they can congregate hundreds, if not thousands of employees into one spot? That sure makes it a lot easier to watch you, doesn't it? And this could be the very problem we're talking about. So let's start with why now. Why kill the dream of remote work in 2025 after years of proving that it actually works? I know from working in remote environments that employees that have worked for me have had tons of productivity in short amounts of time that have helped out the business a lot. So part of all of this is just pure economics, by the way. Let's be real. Those office towers downtown aren't going to pay for themselves. Governments and corporations have already poured billions into leases, buildings, and infrastructure. So that is part of what's going on here. Empty floors make for bad optics and worse balance sheets for that matter. So instead of adapting, instead of accepting that the world has moved on, they're ordering bodies back into the buildings to justify sunk costs. And let's be also honest, when a business writes off empty floors as business costs on their taxes, the CRA doesn't really like that very much. They're basically using it for a fake write-off, at least in their opinion. Another part is surveillance, though. It's visibility control. When you're at home, you control your space, you control your hours, and you control your rhythm. When you're in the office, managers can see you, measure you, keep tabs on who's committed and who isn't. What is commitment, by the way? Could you define that for me? Interesting, isn't it? It's not about output, it's about eyeballs. It's not about performance, it's about presence. And for a lot of insecure managers who don't actually know how to measure results, real results, presence is the only thing that they understand. You're here, so you must be working. In fact, I've seen people way worse at work in the office than they were at home. But don't forget the politics in all of this as well, because downtown cores have been hollowed out. Transit ridership is down. Local businesses hurt from work from home. So that part sucks. Governments know if office workers don't come back, property values might slip downtown, small businesses will keep closing, and tax revenues will shrink. So what's the easy answer here? Force the civil service back because they have full control over that, then pressure the banks to do the same, and then pressure the bigger businesses to follow. Once that happens, the smaller and medium-sized businesses will as well. Create the illusion of a revival to returning to the office. Make the streets look busy again. It's urban policy disguised as workforce policy. And finally, let's talk trust, because that's what's lacking here. For all the speeches about flexibility, a lot of bosses never trusted remote work to start with. They hated it. How can they have a control? They finally got the title they always wanted, and now you're working from home. They tolerated it when labor markets were tight and workers had leverage. They tolerated it in COVID. But now, with markets cooling, with job competition rising, they feel strong enough to reassert their control. And they're doing it with a vengeance. And here's the thing. That's all they want is control. They don't actually believe they're going to get more productivity from you, and they actually probably don't even care if they do. It's more about being able to say, I'm a VP and I can tell you what to do. But here's the problem. This isn't just bad for our workers, it's bad for the economy. Every credible study shows that forced return to office mandates wreck employee morale. They fuel turnover because oftentimes we've hired people from 6-7 cities away, and make recruitment harder because now you can't access the market in Calgary when you're in Toronto anymore. Young talent doesn't want to chain itself to a desk as well, so your younger generations are out. Experienced talent doesn't want to give up the balance they earned from all of this. Yet instead of innovating, instead of measuring actual productivity, leaders are choosing the lazy route, which is demand presence on site, no matter what the cost is. So when they tell you this is about collaboration, don't buy it. It's not about collaboration. It's not about getting you all around the table again. When they say it's about culture, don't buy it, because it's not about culture. In fact, they're ruining your company culture by forcing you back to work. This is about power. This is about money. This is about governments trying to look tough and companies trying to save face on empty offices that they should never have invested in. And this is about the CRA not wanting large businesses to be writing off office towers when nobody's in them. That's what this is about. That is the true reason for all of this. Because the truth of the matter is, you might have somebody who's sitting in Vancouver who's the top talent for a role you're hiring for, but your office happens to be in Toronto. When they were remote, you could hire that Vancouver top talent. Now you can't. And maybe, just maybe, there's something more nefarious at play here too. Think about it, okay? So when workers are dispersed, working remotely across cities and towns, they're harder to monitor, right? harder to control. Would you agree? I think you would. Harder to influence. But when you drag them all back into the herd, into the towers, into the open plan floors with your people sheepdogs, you don't just get productivity, you get visibility, you get conformity, you get people who are easier to manage, easier to watch, easier to keep in line. And governments love predictability too. It's very easy for the government to keep an eye on you when you're all in the same office. Bureaucrats love compliance, and herding people back into the office makes both a hell of a lot easier. That's how it works, right? So there's your nefarious thing right there. Does the government want you back in the office to keep you in a large space together so it's easier to watch? But here's the bottom line. Regardless of whether that's the case, we already proved work from home works. We showed all of this during the most chaotic global crisis of our lifetime. No, that's not Donald Trump, Mark Carney. That was COVID. And instead of embracing that progress, they're trying to erase it. They're trying to gaslight us into believing that we imagined all of this, that this was never a good idea, that it never happened, that we can't be trusted as employees. So get back to work, get back into your cubicle, get back around that boardroom table. You can't be trusted. Well, in my opinion, enough. We don't have to accept arbitrary mandates that serve landlords, politicians, and micromanagers instead of workers and families. We don't have to swallow the lie that our presence matters more than our output. And we sure as hell do not have to give up the freedom that we have earned. And we already earned it through our careers so far. This isn't about where we work. It's about who controls our time, our lives, and our freedom. And when we work from home, they lose some of that control. If we let them steal remote work now, we'll never get it back, just so you know. So fight it, question it. Don't comply quietly, make noise. Because work from home was never really supposed to be a privilege. It was progress, and progress deserves a future. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things, the weekend wrap. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope the Blue Jays win all weekend. And we have a really interesting and feisty episode for you Monday morning that I think you're all going to really want to open your eyes to. Let's put it that way. That's Monday morning, though. That's on the first sip. We'll see you then. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we will catch you on the flip side.